beneficiaries. And they're from power, and power brings in money, and they're above law. They can break the law and get away with it. So this is not just the problem, Darren, with Pakistan. Basically, it is the problem with the entire developing world. The poor countries are poor because they cannot bring the powerful elites under the law. And so the elites of the poor countries siphon off, plunder the country, take their wealth and take them to offshore accounts and Western capitals. So basically, the poor countries are being plundered by their ruling elites because they're above law. So this was my struggle, and I was always going to come up against those powerful elites who did not want to be brought under the law. And that's what I am facing right now.
Indeed, indeed. And unfortunately, I'd have to say it's not only an issue with developing countries. We certainly have our own issues with deep corruption in the United States as well, which maybe we could get into later. And before we move on, I'm just curious, what are some of your proudest accomplishments while in office, some of the struggles that you had economically, and maybe some of the progress you made in combating this deeply entrenched corruption that you speak of?
Well, first, let me tell you where I failed. I failed to bring the powerful under the law because, unfortunately, while I had the responsibility, the actual veto power belonged to the army chief, and he was not interested in accountability of the powerful. So, because he was not interested, I'm afraid I failed there because I had a weak government. In other words, in a parliamentary democracy, if you have a coalition government with a very thin majority, then it is very difficult to make powerful decisions because you can always be destabilized. And in the end, we were destabilized by the powerful. They destabilized my government, and so I was removed. But that is where I failed. I mean, I'm saying I failed in bringing rule of law because I just did not have a strong enough government in a parliamentary democracy. But I guess my biggest achievement was dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. Remember, it ravaged most of the world, and it ravaged two of our neighbors. I mean, India suffered massively from COVID-19, and so did Iran on the other side, on the east and west. But Pakistan was one of the 3 top countries in the world which handled the pandemic the best. We saved our people from the devastating impact on our hospitals. Remember, the hospitals were overrun. In Pakistan, our hospitals were never overrun the way we dealt with it. But we also saved our economy. I mean, we were the ones to recover the fastest from the impact on the economy of the pandemic. And also, we saved our poor people because pandemic really caused a lot of poverty. Because when you lock down, basically people go out of work. And in Pakistan, we had informal labor, not registered. We had weekly, daily wages. So the moment you lock down, I mean, these people, who need to make money to feed their families, where were they going to go? So we dealt with it, probably one of the countries that dealt with it the best. And then also we inherited a bankrupt economy. And our last 2 years were considered that one of the best performing economies in Pakistan in 17 years. So from a bankrupt economy, we actually performed the best, and actually recently endorsed in few days back, the IMF endorsed the way we lifted our economy from a bankrupted one.
Yes, no, that's a great accomplishment. And what you were saying earlier about corruption, it reminds me, I think on another occasion, you pointed out that it's critical for a leader who has responsibility to also wield authority. And you can speak to your own case, but from what I've seen in other countries, including the case of the United States, when a leader is extremely popular, has profound support of the people, it's very unfortunate when the institutions and the bureaucracies don't cooperate, because that creates a condition where the elected leader with the support and love of the people does not have the authority to do what the people elected him to do. And one kind of pithy saying I picked up from a book of yours is that it's impossible to rule Pakistan without these three A's: Allah, Army, and America. And we'll leave aside two A's for the moment and just talk about one of these institutions, which is the Army and the intelligence services that you mentioned. My understanding is in the beginning, you had a fairly good relationship with these institutions, or at least not an acrimonious one. At some point, though, the relationship turned, leading to your ouster, effectively. Could you explain a little bit, in your view, what soured between you and at least certain elements within the Army and intelligence service?